you're gonna extend
Yeah, I just want to leave
the time.
understand it a little bit.
Call to order the St. Joseph City Council of Tuesday, September 7th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag Item 2, public comments. Anybody wishing to address the council? Come on up. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the agenda, and do we have, which is the added on? I want to make sure we note, there is a 10C RFP for construction manager on that. Everybody aware of that? Okay. It's on the back page, second page. Okay.
I wasn't aware we were that far into it. You got a construction manager.
Well, we can talk about it, but that's part of the agenda.
Okay.
Motion and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, consent agenda. Second, motion and second on the consent agenda.
I would like to pull C for discussion if that's okay.
We'll talk about 4C separately. Motion and second on the consent agenda. We'll take up 4C after the fact. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 4C.
I just want to know a little bit about it. Just where the location is. I know I kind of saw it a little bit, but I want to kind of see it. But I know we won't be able to see it now. But what it entails, what does it mean for the regional designation as opposed to what this would entail as a regional park in general?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for the question, John. So East Park is located right off of County Road 121, right south of Kennedy, essentially, right by the bridge. So the regional designation basically, if that application is successful, it allows us to then apply for funds through the Legacy Act. So the Legacy Act is an allocation of funds for regionally designated parks. So the only way to tap into that fund is to get the regional designation. So essentially the resolution is we had submitted that application in late July, and in order for them to fully review that application, we would need that resolution essentially saying that the city is applying for the regional designation and going forward with that. So does that help?
It does.
Okay,
I
perfect.
wanted to kind of see it. I know you showed me a little bit about of where it would be, and
Yep.
I wanted to see location and just a little more clarity on that. So,
Okay.
So it's about 90 acres.
okay.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So need a motion.
I got a
Question?
question.
Sure.
So, how did that park get named the East Park? And
It's
probably
essentially, in
before
all
your time.
honesty, it's kind of a placeholder name. I don't know the exact basis behind why it's East Park. I think it was just a generic name until a permanent name could be established, from my understanding.
It was east of Jade Road.
It seems like it's to the south.
It
It
is.
seems like it's near the Sauk River
It is. It's
and
east of
Kennedy.
east of Jade Road.
So I would hope that we'd have a process where we might rename the park.
We will.
Yeah, so we had done, back in like 2018, we had done some planning related to East Park, and then part of that was, trying to, or stating that we will have a renaming, or, we'll decide a different name for the park.
Good.
Yep.
It's in our master park plan as East Park right now. Just letting you know. Okay.
It's not the right name.
Yeah, okay, I don't.
Thank you.
It's east of something. So I move on 4C.
I second.
Motion and second on 4C. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's see. Item 5, public hearing, vacation of alleyway.
Yes. So, good evening, Mayor and Council, again. So, for your consideration, as directed by the Council at the August 2nd meeting, staff has prepared documents that would essentially vacate the alleyway between block 7, between lots 9 and 10. So the alleyway is bordered by 2 properties on the east and west. Staff did spend the time between August 2nd and tonight's meeting in sending out public notices and public hearing notifications, and then also trying to establish contact with those property owners. To date, we have not received any public comments from the mailings. As you recall, we did get public comment at the August 2nd meeting with some concerns from a couple residents, which is included in your packet as a summary of those concerns. So we did establish contact with one of the owners, and that would be the owner to the east, and they were not in favor of the vacation of the alleyway. So if the vacation is approved by the council this evening, we do recommend that the 2 adjacent property owners develop a agreement upon shared access to both of those properties from the rear. And then the city is going to be retaining the drainage and utility easement that runs through there if the vacation is approved by council. And that's just to establish the utilities that run through there. So for your consideration, we ask that you conduct the public hearing, and then after the public hearing, there's 2 actions on there. The first is the approval of the drainage and utility easement, and the second one is the resolution, which is vacating the alley. So I'd be happy to answer any questions prior to the public hearing, if you have any.
Thanks, Nate. That being said, we're gonna open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak to the council on vacation of the alley on block 7, please step to the podium, name and address. These will be timed. They'll have a max of 3 minutes each.
What?
Max of 3 minutes.
This is the public hearing.
You get 3 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. Well, I'm up here for the 3rd time, opposing the vacating of the alley 7 and 8. I'm Stephen May, and I own the house on 211 West Minnesota Street. Pretty much going to say the same things that I have before. I highly doubt if there was ever any type of accidents exiting or entering from Minnesota Street there. So, I mean, it's pretty safe entry off of the street. I don't think it's any different from exiting off the alley onto Minnesota Street versus a block down the road off of a private driveway. You come up, you either go left or right. It's the same principle. Snow removal is just a huge thing for me. I need to enter off that south entrance and push all the snow with my 8-foot plow truck on my truck. If I leave any snow in that alley, the wind takes it from the northwest and it piles up on the sidewalk and onto Minnesota Street if there's any northwest wind or anything. It's just another inconvenience, so I need to get all that snow out. The snow that's on the sidewalk running parallel north and south of the building gets pushed onto the alley, and I just take it out with my truck on an 8-foot plow, and it's been working great for 20 years. So if we change that, how do you push snow up to a dead-end sidewalk? You're going to leave some sort of snow there. So I don't know, it just doesn't seem practical to me. But I did notice as of late there's a lot of Bobcats, skid loaders, service trucks, and city trucks using the entry off of Minnesota Street. You know, that's pretty convenient for them to be using that now. I mean, if you close it down, why don't we leave it as a convenience rather than an inconvenience for the people that are going to live there, you know? And the students or the tenants moving in and out, they're not going to back a U-Haul trailer and a truck down that alley from the ballpark side into that. They're going to come right up to Minnesota Street and open up the doors and unload all their furniture right on Minnesota Street. So that's a safety issue. But I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me why we would have to close that down. I think we should just save the money and just leave it alone like it has been for 50 years. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Jim?
My My name is Tim Borsch. I live at 11th Avenue Northwest. Although I already know that this is just a formality, you guys all seem to have your mind made up. I did send you out an email already last Thursday, hoping that somebody would at least come to me. You know, I could show you what the things are. I've lived in my whole entire life. I was born, raised, and lived in the same house I live in now. And I'm kind of disappointed that not one person reached out to me. Rick did at least, you know, get back to me on a text, but that's as far as that went. There is stuff that you need to see, not just the paper doesn't mean nothing. You can look at that all day long and that doesn't mean nothing. This is a park and recreational area. This is totally different from a neighborhood, a regular neighborhood with 3 or 4 houses in it. This has got 25 to 30 students in it, in one block. That's 25 to 30 cars that need another outlet. And we're sitting here trying to close off something that has no bearing on anything as far as why would we do it on Minnesota Street? It's a safety issue for sure. We've got kids, which I wanted to show some of you people. We got a narrow alley coming in, and I've got kids that come off that, we call it the small hill, and that's where all the toddlers do their sliding. Now, that's right on alongside the new tar road that's gonna be put in. Now, you put a narrow road with all these toddlers, and you start plowing the snow on both sides, one car gets stuck in between there, or two. There's no other outlet out of there. There's either one side or the other side. And this middle road is huge for that. If something would happen in any instance in there, this road at least gives you another outlet out if something would happen. If there's an accident, if there's closure on both sides, everybody in the middle is stuck. We need to have this road here. There's that park is open year round. We have baseball, we have skateboarding, everything during the summer. During the winter, we have, you know, all kinds of activities: ice skating, sledding, snowboarding, and the gates are closed. So there's nowhere for these cars to go. So what do? They park right at the gate entrance at the top of the hill. That means all these cars are at that one entrance going out to 3rd Avenue, and all those cars are right there. My street is packed with cars. And now we're gonna try to send out 25 or 30 cars down 3rd Avenue to try to get out? Makes no sense. This is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And I think you guys should really think twice about closing this down, because it's gonna be a safety hazard, and that first child that gets hurt because one car comes by and the kid comes by the other way and slides down and that car hits them. These are college kids. They're students. They party on weekends. This is a bad neighborhood. I wanted you guys to see this. It's not, when I say bad, it's just a lot of kids in one area. It's completely college houses, completely. From my house to 2nd Street. So we have all these college kids that party on weekends, and every right to. They're more fun for them. But when they get up on the next morning and they start driving out, and either the sun hits them in the eyes or they're still half impaired, what happens when that first child? I have, even today, yesterday, it would have been perfect for anybody to come over yesterday. Kids were at the top of the hill with all the construction going on. They're still driving their bikes down the hill. They're hanging around right at the top of the very entrance to that opening.
30 seconds, Tim.
There's a lot of children up there. You guys should never close that alley down. We need another outlet for safety. I know that Dwight's on my side with this. It's gonna alleviate a lot of the problems with it'll keep it the same, that the cop can run down that alley, make sure that the college students on both sides are behaving, or at least keeping it open. It's gonna be a mess.
Thanks, Tim.
It's gonna be a mess.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? That being said, we're gonna close the public hearing portion. Entertain counselors.
I just want to say, just because I didn't talk to you individually, I have went and looked, and I do agree. I think that my opinion would be to separate these two motions, and if we need the draining and the utility to be able to take care of that, but I don't think we should shut down the alley. And that's how I feel. I just, with the movement of the college students, I take my grandkids down there. That's just one point that you had brought up I just think that needs that movement down there, so I disagree with vacating the alley.
And Tim, I wanted to say, I appreciate your email. I was gone all weekend, or I would, but I have driven over there as well. And just like Kelly, my kids go sledding over there too. You bring up a lot of good points, and I agree with Kelly of trying to split them. You have a compelling argument, and I tend to agree with you as well.
You don't really have to split them if you don't
Or you
vacate
could
the
just
alley,
do one, you could do the other, right?
because it's city land.
Right.
If you don't vacate the alley, we own the
Well, don't we
right.
still need to do drainage there? Do we
still do
still need
one
to
and not
fix
the
the
other.
piping or anything like that?
So
That was a
if-
City
conversation.
land.
If the city, if the city does not vacate the alleyway, we do not have to have the easement, because we'll still have the rights to
We have the right to do
access
that.
what we need to.
I
Yeah.
just thought there was conversation that the piping needed to be replaced and stuff, so I didn't know, so thank you for
Yep.
clarifying.
I do want to interject, so that is true. However, I did confer with legal counsel. Sue, maybe you can chime in, if you will be entertaining both motions tonight, and you will be, we would advise you to take the motion to secure the drainage utility easement prior to the vacation regardless. It's double protection, essentially. And Mayor, you are correct, we do have that access now, but
So just to confirm, is that what you're saying?
I would agree that's the order we need to do this in, because we need to record the resolution retaining the easement first before we would record the vacation. But again, if you're not gonna do the
We don't-
vacation, then neither is required.
Gentlemen, do you, either of you, you're homeowners, do you rent? Are you landlords? Do you rent?
Yeah.
I live right.
Yeah. Are you a landlord?
And I'm a landlord also. I own the property across the street from one.
And you rent to college students? And,
Yeah, we have one dwelling that we rent out.
okay. I'm inclined with Councilwoman Bienick and Councilman Hazen to not vacate that alley. We don't have to do it this year. I walk around the area. You gentlemen have been here, you've been passionate. I think we need to listen to citizens that are passionate in this area. And we don't have to vacate it tonight. We could say, let's vacate it in a year or 2 or 3 or 4. So I understand the city and the city engineer and what have you to vacate alleys and get things all curbed up, but in this particular case, I don't feel we need to do it. And whatever it should be, as far as which motion, we do one or the other or none, I don't care, but I'm not gonna be in favor of vacating.
Okay. I'm okay with vacating the alley, but listen first before you judge me. I'm more in favor of curbing in the corner of First and Minnesota. You know, that goes by the JR
Second,
building.
second Minnesota.
Yeah, Second in Minnesota. And also curbing in, there's a driveway right next to JR's for, I'm not sure who's, I think that's the Schneider property. Okay, there's a driveway there off Minnesota. Curbing that in. And then curbing in the, also the driveway off Mr. May's property, I believe. Is there a driveway off Minnesota on your property? Just the alley? And then there's another driveway east of that, or west of that, that there should be curbed. Because there shouldn't be any access to Minnesota Street, in my opinion. There
But we're
shouldn't be
not
any
talking
access.
about that right now,
Bob.
we're only talking.
What's that?
Bob's got the floor.
I understand that, but he's talking
Bob?
about,
Bob?
Right, I'm,
okay.
and that's what I'm looking at, because the whole purpose of vacating that alley and blocking it off is to not allow access to Minnesota Street, because that's kind of the standard procedure, not to allow access. And the way it's accessed right now, it basically goes against our policies and our ordinances. We just enacted one the other month or so ago, that there had to be a certain criteria to have two accesses off to a street, depending upon from a intersection and so forth. So I don't know where I stand on this, but, you know, if it would go to block, you know, curbing off those accesses and keeping the alley open, that'd be a win-win situation for me. Because you wouldn't have 4 or 5 accesses right within a block area onto a main thoroughfare. I mean, I hope that people know what I'm saying. I mean, that makes more sense than blocking off a thoroughfare right now from the right or the left, depending on which way you're coming from. We can, you know, all them little driveways and little accesses onto Minnesota Street, it would be away from the intersection. That intersection's kind of notorious anyway. I don't know if there's any accident data on that or near misses or whatever. But to allow less access right on that corner, you know, all the way down to the alley, and hopefully, because then those properties would have access through that alley. I'm not sure about the Brown House on the end there, right next to Tim's property.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one might have to stay, I don't know. But that's a solution to me,
yeah,
just saying.
there are pros and cons on both ends.
Yeah,
Whether kids have to unload on Minnesota like they do in front of the Yellow House or in their alley is irrelevant to me. I'm talking now, okay? So, and whether, now that we've tarred that alley, now it becomes a road. And there are more safety issues because of that. I'm against tarring alleys. The less you tar, the more you tar, the more they become a road, and the more become a safety issue. My motion is to lay this aside, lay it on the table.
Second.
Motion and second, lay it on the table. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed?
hey,
Motion prevails.
still,
Let's see. Item 6,
it's out in the wind, it's hanging yet.
it's not being considered. Right now. Down the road, some other time, maybe not at all. Maybe not at all.
I mean, it's not, we're just kind of lost you a little bit. Are you saying that it's not gonna be with this fact that's happening right now?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so we're done for this year?
Yep, well, until December. No, I'm just kidding. No. Yeah, we're done. We're done. We're done. There's no consensus here to move it forward, so we're done right now. Bad habit, item 6.
Yeah, so as you are aware, Bad Habit has been leasing space for storage in the old Police Department Fire Hall building, also known as the old Village Hall building across from St. Joe Meat Market, that we entered into a purchase agreement with, recently with Shannon Wigger. And you have been allowing a month-to-month lease for storage. And we're nearing a point where we have SCH preparing the plat document to divide that so we can finalize on the sale. So Aaron Reeland had reached out in regards to storage, and I guess I will just turn it over to Aaron to present his request. You have the letter or the email that he sent in your packet. That is an overview of his request, but I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Can I interrupt you before you start? Sorry. So where is Shannon at with the process and everything here? I missed that.
Yep, so we entered into the purchase agreement, that was executed, and right now we have SCH preparing the plat,
Okay.
surveying it.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Aaron, thank you.
Sounds good, thank you. Aaron Reeland, Bad Habit Brewing. Obviously, I think you guys all saw the letter of intent. Our hope is to increase some production and storage on our current property, as well as a future event space. We get a lot of requests for that. Our lease with the city is up the end of September, and we need some storage for grains and cans and a few other things. And we're hoping that we have 2 contractors pricing out the expansion for us, hoping that we have some site plans done so we can submit those to you in the next month or so here, and hopefully start construction this year yet. In the meantime, we're hoping that we could do some on-site storage containers just to get us by during the construction period, like Conex boxes in our drive-through. So that's really what we're requesting right now, if it's possible to do that. We've looked for storage for the last 3 months all over, and we can't find storage anywhere. I can find storage in Sauk Rapids, but I don't want to drive to Sauk Rapids every day, so.
Sauk Rapids is a nice town.
It is a nice town, but I live in Avon, so I don't want to go all the way across to meet our deliveries and pick up grains and stuff like that.
So how many containers are you asking for?
Two.
Two.
Like 10 by 30s, yep.
And you'll have those locked, you'll have those locked down.
We would, yep, camera locked. You know, we're hoping that right now, both contractors said they could start pending submittals November and be wrapped up by March, so.
You probably said how big they were. How long are they gonna be?
10 by 30.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So you're talking a 6-month window?
Yeah, and I'm hoping even quicker. I mean, if we can get the production and storage up quicker, concrete poured, we get everything in there right away and get rid of those boxes. I mean, the less we gotta rent those, the better, so. They're similar if you've seen like TKI, Tom Kramer. They rent Conex boxes, the blue ones.
Okay.
They're nice looking, I mean, nice as a storage box can look, but yeah, we're hoping for just some temporary storage to get us by till the project's complete, so.
Questions?
I'd be okay with a 6-month temporary storage on site.
So my only question is, and I don't have a problem with that, but should the footprint or something change in the middle of a 4-month so that the storage containers have to be there longer and longer? How do we manage that, or is it just, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we don't know what the final look and feel of the building is. and-
Right.
And
Yep.
what the parameters of the building would be, or, so if there's a hiccup there somewhere, then we just say, oh, just keep doing it?
Yeah.
I'm kinda asking, I don't know the answer.
And that's happened before,
Well, I know, and
yeah.
I just don't want them to be there for 12 months. That's
Not with
kinda
you.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and I don't want it there 12
Yeah,
months
I
either,
get
you know,
it.
and I can't
And I know
imagine
this-
this is gonna be a huge hiccup or anything. I mean, it's a 40 by 60 foot.
Yeah, I've seen it, you've showed it to me, but
Yeah,
I
production.
can't imagine, but at the same time, I don't know that, this isn't asking for approval, it's just asking for storage.
Yeah,
So,
How much of the storage are you using right now at the current facility that you're at here? from us?
3/4 of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, are you at max or not?
No, I mean,
max?
our hope is to, if it's okay to do these storage containers, get them there as soon as possible, start moving everything out, so there's a week, you know, to clean up and everything, so it's, you know.
so really the question is, how do you continue it if there's a, you know, delay in
Setback.
approval or something?
Wood becomes
You
crazy.
know, how do you keep,
Yeah.
whatever, it says 2 to 3 months, it could be 4 to 6, 7 to 8, whatever.
Right.
How do you,
Right, and
Wait.
you envisioned 6 months, so certainly if you want to do 6 months, or if you want to build a couple extra months in there, 8 months, you could do that,
well,
or build something in your, you know.
I just wanna make sure that
And
we're covered somehow, so that if it's gotta be there longer, it's
Yeah.
not causing
So-
downtown
Or
to
if
go
it's active
crazy.
construction and you know he's making progress too,
Whatever.
you can give the flexibility within your motion to allow that to continue.
so our
We have
ordinance
to make a motion.
Our ordinance does allow temporary buildings for construction to be a permitted accessory use. I think really the request is if Aaron can, have those prior to, because he needs the space before then. So, if there's a delay, if he submits application next month and, council says 6 months and somehow there's a delay, we would come back if construction hadn't started.
Right.
So
So
this,
it's
Yeah,
covered.
Our plan is to, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously submit the plans to you as soon as we have them. We've picked a contractor and we wanna get going on it as quick as possible. I don't wanna start in January. But
So
yeah,
the-
I mean, if they're gone in 3 months, that'd be great.
I agree with you, it's approval of the temporary storage for a fixed period of time, whatever that fixed period of time is. So, again, I don't care really what it is, I know you're gonna move forward, I just don't, you know, I have a tough time saying what that fixed period of time is. Until you finish?
Yeah, well, no, yes.
That's not fixed either, I know.
Yeah.
Anybody got some suggestions on words for that?
So why does Aaron need to come before us? I mean, it's his property. Can't he do what he wants?
So in our ordinance, we allow it
Yeah.
while construction's occurring.
We allow
but
what?
temporary buildings for storage purposes.
Okay.
But the question is, can, you know, Aaron have that prior to his construction starting?
Yeah.
Because he needs that space. We have to go through the site plan approval.
Got it.
There's steps that we have to take. Yep.
At one time, we did have a permitting process, and we probably still do somewhere on the books, where we, the 742 had to come to us for permission to have temporary classrooms, same concept.
Yep.
And they had to come back every so often to renew that. So there is language somewhere that, you know, they have to, you give them a certain amount of time. You know, so I'll move to give Bad Habit LLC, whatever the hell you're called.
Close enough.
A 6-month temporary storage with containers on site.
Thank you.
And with no precedence where this approves any future construction coming into the future. You know, it has nothing to do with your future plan,
Thank you.
just temporary storage.
Yeah.
Second.
I second.
Motion and second. Motion and second. Yeah. Motion and second, and whatever Bob said.
All right, we're good?
A temporary approval for up to 6 months.
Thank you,
All
guys.
those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Aaron, very good. Habda,
It's
habda.
pretty simple.
It was, we got it.
6 months, perfect.
Chief Dolphin, right? Are we there? Yeah. Oh, I'm in the wrong one.
Good evening. Fire Chief Jeff Dolphin. Some of you I know, some of you I just met. I was asked to come to the council tonight. A couple reasons. One, just kind of give you guys a report where the fire department's at. We meet with the fire board 4 times a year, so sometimes I'm thinking that information probably doesn't always get back to you. We're busy. First 6 months, we ran 263 calls for a volunteer division. Last year, we did 507. So right now, we're at 371, 372 with the one tonight, or 2 tonight. So compared to 353 last year, so we're still pushing numbers high.
Do we charge C&L for that? Well, I don't, do we?
No.
Really? Oh, rats. Okay, sorry.
We are currently at 25 members. We can have up to 30. With tonight's consent that you guys did, we will be hiring 3 more, so it'll put us at 28. A lot of our calls are medical, and you guys all know that. We have been working, Dwight and Mayo and Treese and Stearns County Dispatch and Stearns County Sheriff to try to figure out how we can maybe limit some of our medical calls. That's anywhere from 70 to 80% of our calls every year. So, unfortunately, there's a few roadblocks that we gotta make a few different turns, but we are continuing to work on that to try to cut down the calls maybe a little bit to try to help out the budget and keep guys entertained enough to show up when the pager comes on all the time. So we're working on that, but I kind of look back this afternoon. If I look back to 2000, the year 2000, the fire department ran 209 calls. 2010, we're at 256. 2020, we're at 507. So a lot is changing in our end that, again, talking with the fire board, I want to know, the fire department wants to know, we need to decide what the city wants to do with this fire department, how we can handle this, because 507 calls, that's a report every night, that's payroll, that's making sure the trucks run, making sure you got the right equipment, making sure you have enough equipment, all this stuff. It's not becoming a volunteer paid, maybe chief's position, or, I don't know the right answer. But what I do know is, as probably more the city than the fire board, because the city is ultimately in control, I would like some kind of timeline. What does the city see the fire department being at in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? Because it can't continue. I don't know how much longer I have time to do it. And who's the next guy? Is he gonna have the time, or is he gonna wanna do it? I don't have a lot of people pounding on the door saying, hey, I wanna be chief. I want, because it's a lot of time after hours. So I work an 8-hour, 10-hour day. I got a family, and then I gotta come around and either go up there at 10 o'clock at night and work till 2, or go there at 4 o'clock in the morning, work till 5:30 for my other job to get this stuff done. And I still feel that I don't probably give everything I could to the fire department or the community. So that's kind of where the fire department's at. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Jeff, if you see the increase in calls, if 80% of them today are medical, where's the fire department at if you eliminate medical?
You're still at 150 calls, 200 calls. But
Okay.
how are you gonna eliminate medicals?
Well, I'm just saying,
Right.
if your vast majority, 80% of the calls are medical, and you can eliminate that, doesn't that help with recruitment,
Sure.
retention,
Yeah,
lack of
'cause
apparatus, calls?
Most of the people wanna get on to be a firefighter.
I get it.
Yeah, that's-
So if you can eliminate medical, you may solve your fire department problem, right?
Hopefully,
It would be eliminate less administration, less reports, less.
correct.
So why aren't we working on eliminating EMT? That's you and Therese and Dwight.
Yeah, that's not as easy as it sounds.
Oh, I understand, I know,
Yeah.
but at the same time, if that's the biggest, fish in the pan, then why aren't you looking at that first? Trying to solve fire department without eliminating EMT doesn't solve your problem.
Right, no, and we've tried different avenues. The department, I believe, was built a lot on the rescue for the last probably 30 years. So do you wanna take that away from the community in hopes that a Mayo rig is close enough in town? And we don't know, and Mayo can't commit to our town. Mayo can't commit to any town except St. Cloud.
I don't know that again, I haven't heard any of the proposals for or against. You're saying no, he's saying, well, it's difficult, so that tells me there's a chance. And I don't know what the table says we can and can't do. I don't know what we can and can't afford. I just know we can't continue at this pace.
No.
So, and if EMT is, again, the worst thing, or the most time-consuming piece of this, then fire department can be separated somehow, and EMT can be separated. Now, again, I don't know what it takes, but to me, that's the tackle of you guys coming back to us with a proposal on this is how it might work. Do I want to take it away? I want to make sure we're as safe as we are today. And even with some of the calls that we make, Gold Cross still shows up. Mayo still shows up. So we're double dipping somehow, so there's got to be some crossover there that we might seem reasonable to me. I don't know, but I don't want to wait for a potential 6-person city fire report thing that may or may not happen. I think we could solve this ourselves. I don't know how, but
I wouldn't know how. I mean, you'd have to hire your own ambulance service maybe, and I don't know if that's
It's
even
about
a
cost.
possibility.
it's cost. What is it? I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's just contracting with Mayo. I don't know. But
We tried that
I
with
don't-
Mayo already.
Oh, you were told me that we can't. Mayo is inconclusive to the ambulance service. That's what you told me.
That's,
You said we cannot, there's
you know,
there's
you
a
can't bring
rule.
another ambulance
They have a
service in, they
district
have this
area.
district from what I've been told from Mayo.
Well, that's
They-
what you told me. I
Yeah.
mean, now
How does-
you're going back on
how
that.
does Wade Park do it? They don't have EMT calls.
They don't run medicals,
Well, how do they do it?
because Mayo's close enough into St. Cloud, they got a rig close enough.
Again, I think that's just a matter of contract and negotiation and figuring it out.
It's
I
a matter
do.
of the right people talking to the right people. and not
Again, I'm
just
not saying
throwing it
It's,
to the
it's a
side.
matter of having enough people on their end too to be able to cover that.
Absolutely. I
You know,
get it.
we're no different than
Yep.
Cold Spring.
Yep.
Cold Spring runs probably just as many medicals as we do, and they're in the same boat, but Mayo cannot commit to that. They can't commit to a rig there and a rig in St. Joe, and I think they have 7 rigs and they can barely stay afloat during most days,
Yeah. And
so.
all I'm looking at is EMT calls are not gonna go away. The more senior community we become, and the
Correct.
more residents we have, the more we're gonna see. And fires seem like they're plateaued. I don't wanna say they don't go up and down a little bit, but they seem like they're pretty level.
Well, you
I don't
hope
think
they
you can
are.
Predict a fire though.
Well, you
Right.
can't, but I'm just saying, fire suppression and what we do and all those other things, it's pretty, we don't see large fires, we see some grass fires, we see breaking a gas line once in a while, twice this year.
So
So
Mayor and council members, like Jeff had shared, we had met, Dwight and Jeff and I had met with Mayo Ambulance, as well as Stearns County Dispatch. And we've had a couple of meetings with the Mayo Ambulance now, but they have asked us not to give up medicals. In regards to what Jeff just said earlier, they don't have the staffing, the vehicles, the manpower, essentially. But what we have discussed is, could we have them respond to certain calls, just them, to help alleviate some of the medicals. And so at our last meeting, was it a week ago, a couple weeks ago now? Can't
week
recall.
ago.
It was fairly recently. They would take on the senior facilities. So Woodcrest Country Manor, for example, Serenity on 7th, Arlington Place. So that's a start. I will say that.
What's the percentage of
percentage?
those
I was
calls?
just gonna say, how many
How many
calls
is
is that?
Well, I know Mayo sent back, just in this year, 48 times they've been to Woodcrest. Last year, they were there a total of 53 for the whole year. This year, they're at 48.
Already for
To
half the year.
date.
Right. to
Okay.
date. So,
So
there are
48 of
big
like the
numbers,
200
and
call.
if Woodcrest continues on growing and they add on, that's just gonna double
gonna-
everything.
Yeah.
So,
I said that's.
that is one of our avenues we're working on, was we're gonna pull these all together and try in hopes to go directly to Mayo. There's a lot of factors that gotta fall in and not fall in, but not to say we're not gonna get called there, but hopefully the numbers will hopefully go down.
Well, for us, they'll go down. We still have to train.
Mhm.
We still have to have the personnel. It doesn't eliminate the potential retention or recruitment, because some people don't want to be EMT. So it still doesn't solve a lot of that. I said it, it was at the work session, like 10% are handling those close calls because they right in town and everything. So whatever that 10 of the 30 or 15 of the 30 do,
Right.
60% of the local calls that are EMT and quick. And that doesn't solve that problem, potentially. So long-term, I totally agree with you. We have to find a way to phase it out, whatever that proposal is. And we still need to maintain a certain amount of safety, security for all residents.
Yeah,
I don't know what that balance is.
we would still continue to do the training, stay up on the training, because you don't know if you're ever gonna need that, whether it's at a fire or at a car accident or one of the firefighters or something. So the training would continue, just like Dwight's guys, they would still continue the medical training. You're still gonna, Wade Park doesn't run medicals, but they still continue to train for them. They still run their first responder refresher class every year.
Well, because they're still gonna have some regardless. I have a question. What's the percentage of calls a firefighter has to make in a year? To still be on
20% in a year.
20% a year. How many haven't made that?
Since I've been chief in 12 years, 2 or 3.
Okay.
And we kind of give them a little, if they don't make it within that a year period, so from January to December, that's the time. 6 months, they get a review, everyone gets a review, we're gonna do the time cards. If they're at or below, have a nice little conversation, need to keep it up. If at the end of December 31st, they're under 20%, they put on probation for 6 months, and they don't get that year of service for the retirement.
Okay. How many of you firefighters have you lost here, let's say like in the last year or two, to either retirement
6.
or moving?
Oh,
Six.
to retirement and moving, probably about 8 in the last 3 years.
Okay.
Turnover's been high.
1, 2, 3, probably 5 retirees and
5, yeah.
3 or 4 that have
And probably some knocking on
moved
the
out.
door too,
Huh?
correct? And probably some knocking on the door. coming up here in the next couple of years too? retirement?
There's a
To
few that can
retire.
retire, there's probably 3 that can retire at full 20 years,
Okay,
you know, but once they've got 10 years, they're vested, they can retire anytime, you can retire anytime you want,
right.
I mean,
So I was trying to see, we talk, about retention, trying to keep people. Keep them
and
there.
that's, and
What's
it's
gonna
not
do
just
it?
St. Joe, it's every
No,
department,
And I see that too.
you know,
so.
it's just, everyone's busy, a lot busier than they were 30 years ago. Everybody's got, their kids are doing this or that, or they're going to their cabin, or they're, which is fine, but we still have to have somebody around to
And-
help with the calls,
Maintain.
whatever they
Oh,
may
right.
be.
Life was busy 30 years ago too.
Huh?
Life was busy 30 years ago.
Well, I'm not saying it was.
Well,
What
just
would you
have to
say-
add that. I mean, you think like 30 years ago in my
No.
time that.
Okay, but I remember when my dad was on as fire chief.
Well,
Not,
that's,
not,
that's
not everybody had a
memories of
cabin,
of
not
child.
everybody had this, not everybody
Pulls
had
back
that,
here.
doing all this.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is, it-
you
so-
took your week vacation, that was it for the year.
again, I'm not trying to, counselors, what I'd like to see is to come up, continue working on that, whatever that reduced EMT plan you have. What is the percentage? What are the calls? Where are they at? What do they reduce the call by? Those kinds of things to say. And then eventually, I get the feeling that Mayo's kind of like the Metro bus, they have their range and that's it. They don't go any farther. And you gotta pay like $1 million to get a line out here or something. Which, I'd like to know what that number is too. What's their bottom line number? I mean, I don't know, but, if we put them out here, they might be able to service Cold Spring and then we'll get, some out there or something. But number one, it'd be nice if we could try to figure out how to phase it out, how to reduce some of the costs, how to increase retention or some of that burnout that the, top guys on the more frequent calls are making. And again, I don't have a timeline. I know you guys have talked already, but it'd be nice if we could see something in a couple of months or 3 months or something. And
Yeah, I mean, tentatively, there's another meeting scheduled probably next week with the group again to try to start with the clinics and the facilities.
I mean, I totally
The
agree with you.
question can be asked maybe that day with Mayo,
Yeah.
what does it take? Can we start our ambulance service?
And, it's just, it's not sustainable. This graph is not sustainable. We have to be ahead of it a little bit and look at solutions today for something that may happen in a year and a half or 2 years from now.
And I think you had just shared that you want direction from us in a sense of 2 to 5 years of our goals per se, or what we would like to see.
Whether it's the fire board or the council, I think it's final here anyways, so I kinda lean towards the council saying, as a city, where do they see the fire department in 2, 3,
Well, with-
4, 5
I
years?
With me being a newbie, and like you said, you and I just talked, and so I would really like to come and look at what you have and, your aspirations in the sense of what you are looking for. Of course, we have an item coming up
Right.
in just a few seconds, hopefully. But that's interest to me, is what we're looking forward in 5 years, because I don't think we're gonna be sitting at the number. I think in 5 years, we're going to be having a lot more moving into this area.
Right, our city's gonna be growing.
It's gonna be
7.5%.
catapulting,
I
exactly.
believe that to be true also.
Or more.
I think we talked about it at the work session too, is why can't we have, you present at every meeting or
Yes.
give an update at every meeting instead of just quarterly? Is that then, not saying you can't still have the quarterly fire board meetings, but it would just be, so you say it doesn't slip through the cracks.
Yeah,
Is
and
over-
I would be fine with that. I mean, I think the council meets twice a month, if it's once a month or
Once
is
a
it
month,
twice
yeah.
a month?
I mean,
Well,
that-
again, Jeff just said how overworked he is. Now you want him at another meeting on.
At least one.
Well, I think it's
But
important to.
My concern is the lack of communication that
I
happens
know.
in the 4 months,
Amen.
that.
I know.
Well, right, and to advocate too for your department
Yes.
and what you wanna see as
Right.
well.
Sure. Just
Exactly.
teasing. I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Anything else for chief? All right, let's go to number 8.
Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry, did you have another one for?
Well, I just want to thank you, Chief Taufen. Thank you for the service that you give to the community. Thank you to your department, your staff. you're kind of the unsung heroes, because it's not easy doing what you do. And so, I know it's hard sometimes, might feel like you're being beat up or whatever, but I think everyone here supports what you're doing. We support the fire department, and it would be good to have you at more of these meetings in the future, so we can keep the communication going.
Okay, we can do that.
So send that back to your troops. Thanks.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Even your assistant chief, if you can't make it.
Straight.
Well, and that's, you
One or
know,
the other.
I would do my best to stay in the loop, but if for some reason I couldn't, I already talked to him, say, hey, you know, you could just go fill in the blanks, here you go, just answer
Delegate,
questions.
delegate.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Item 8, pumper tanker.
Who wants to start? Where do we want to start? Where do we leave off? I wasn't here last time it was talked about, I was on vacation, so heard, different rumors, or people told me different stories.
Want me to narrow it down?
Sure.
So we looked at the proposal, and everybody had a little bit of opinion, and it came back to, is you want a pumper? Is the pumper failing? Do you want a tank? Do you want a pumper tank? And what are the differences? And wouldn't, if you just need more water at a site, off-site, isn't that really what you want, a tanker versus a pumper tanker versus another pumper? You know what I mean?
Okay.
And we understand the dollars, and we understand that this might not have gone through like a normal bidding process, but is that date already gone? Like,
To hold the price.
September
yeah,
1st,
to hold the price? That's gone.
I talked to him, he was gonna reach out to his vendors and see what he could do, he couldn't guarantee anything.
So then we might have to initiate another,
It might be
Whatever.
another 1.5% on top of this, whatever the case may be, the 10, 12 grand on top of that. So, we looked at going to a pumper tanker, it's a dual purpose truck. So, purpose of that is because we run in-town calls with hydrants and we run out-of-town calls with no hydrants. So to be able to have one truck that could do both, makes a lot of sense. You're gonna go buy a new pumper, it's gonna cost you $850,000. You can go buy a new tanker, it's gonna cost you $500,000. So if we can just combine one and have that as a second pumper or a second tanker. Or if we, say we run out to November Drive to Ryan's house because his garage is on fire, we
Let
don't
it
have to
burn.
wait for more water. We don't have to wait, I mean, we're gonna have
Holds 4 times more.
twice as much as we have already. Yes, we'll call mutual aid, but yes, that's anywhere from 20 minutes to a half hour at best to get somebody. So this pumper tanker is something probably more new in the fire end of it, where these fire vendors, whether it be Rosenbauer or Pierce, are seeing more communities like us build those. Instead of having 2 trucks, you can have the same truck in one and do it either way. So why is we don't bring enough water? I know in here it talks about the ISO rating, and I'll be straightforward, I checked with it, a lot of insurance companies don't use ISO anymore. They use per mile away from your fire station for your rating. So why would they come here every 5 years? I have no idea. They can't answer the question, because I've asked ISO personally. But it is, so I've been on the department since 1996. I've been involved in the department for the last probably 60 years when my dad was on. We've always had 5 trucks: pumper, tanker, ladder, rescue van, grass rig. 2006, we added a vehicle. We added a personnel hauler. It's a pickup truck that can haul 4 people. That's it, and equipment. No water, no hose. We throw air packs in the back. We pull our mule in the back. That's it. That's all we've added. We've replaced every vehicle since I've been on, more or less. But we haven't added anything. Our area is not getting any bigger, but the population is going way up. If you look back in 2000, we had, 200 and some calls. Now we're over double that. Granted, they're medicals.
yep.
But the higher population, the higher buildings, the more buildings, it gives another percentage of a higher chance of something happening. So how can we as a community, as a fire department, help protect our community by buying an additional truck, not by replacing one, but buying an additional one. Is our tanker failing? It did. We replaced the tank a few years ago. That's good for a few years. Is our pumper failing? It has days. We just had our pumps tested, and actually our ladder truck is out of service because it failed pump tests. So I have to wait for parts. So now I'm down to one pumper. If something happens to that, then what? Mutual aid, yeah. Way Park already knows, Avon already knows. These other cities know, okay, I'm down a truck, but that still is down a truck for this community. It's our ladder truck. It could be someone that needs to get out of a window. It could be whatever the case may be. And it could be any of the trucks. Point is, the community's getting bigger in population. The chance of more fires are there. So why, as a fire department, why as a city, why as a council, why do we not want to move forward with that? And I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus, but I'll use them. You know, police department has gotten bigger over the last 20 years. Public Works has gotten bigger over the last 20 years. City Hall has gotten bigger. Everything's gotten bigger. Fire department's still 30 guys, 6 trucks. But nothing else has changed. This is the time we need to change. We need this truck. We need it for our safety. It's not for my personal joy that I have another truck, or that, I mean, it's actually gonna be more work because it's another maintenance deal. It's another this and that. It's for the community. That's why we're here. That's why we want it. We want to protect the community the best we can with that, whatever tools we have. Questions?
Dwight, didn't the police department go down like this and then come back? Really?
I mean, I don't think we need to say it in that manner. I think we are growing.
That's what it is.
End of discussion.
Right.
You know, St. Joe is growing, and the equipment that each department has is needed. I don't think that anybody comes to the table without saying, I want it because
Right.
I want it. I think these are needs that each department has come to the table with. So I just think we're feeling some major growing pains right now. So throwing anybody under the bus, probably no, you shouldn't do that. But I do believe that we're growing, and poor Lori, dealing with the finances right now, but I think it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, you know, every other department that's grown, they needed it, and I don't have a problem with that. You know, but I think we're probably delayed on this. We're probably behind the 8 ball on this already, that we should have done this years ago. You can look at, if you're gonna go west and look at departments, they're gonna be like ours, but the towns are gonna be smaller. If you go east towards St. Cloud, you can look at, they have 3 pumpers and a ladder, they have, and a tanker, they have, you know, this, they have whatever. The more metro, which we're becoming, I believe, more metro than where those guys are at, their departments are probably a little more well-equipped to mine out, for my personal belief.
You know, that was one of the questions I had, I think, when we were at the working session too, is what do the other departments have for vehicles? Wade Park, Sauk Rapids.
I know
Sauk
Wade
Town.
Park's got 2, if not 3 pumpers and a ladder and a tanker and a grass rig.
So when you say the ladder, the ladder's not just a truck for a ladder? What
No,
is
it has a pump on it.
That's what, okay,
You
that's
know,
what I wondered.
ours is a 65 footer. The more you go back toward east, you're gonna get into the 100 footers. Now, we looked at, that was our first thought process, is we were gonna replace that because we're at the 20-year window. Some opportunities came up, some people pointed out a few things to our department. We trying to kind of shift the gears with our fire board, said, oh, we wanna put this ladder on hold for 5 years. Not saying we're not gonna replace it, but we need to look at actually adding a truck because of the population, because of the odds of things happening in this town. So that's how we kind of shifted gears. So
And so when we talk about engine 1, what does that entail?
that's a pumper, it has 1,000 gallons of water, pumps 1,250 gallons a minute.
What does the ladder hold for pump?
That's a 1,250 gallon pump, but it only has 500 gallons of water.
Okay. And the grass rig, I mean, I might as well
Yep.
going down, that's what I, you know.
Yep, our grass rig is 1997.
Okay.
That holds 75 gallons of water. It's got a couple little hoses. That we've actually tried to write a FEMA grant for the last 3 years. Still haven't heard back on this year. And it's bad if you look at that truck. The rear end went out of it 5 years ago. So I called Gillen or whoever at the time, said I need a new rear end for this truck. It's a 1997. It's got 5,500 miles on it. He's like, you missed a few zeros. I'm like, no, it's got 5,500 miles on it. They don't make that rear end anymore, so we had to go to a junkyard and put a used rear end in that truck in hopes that it makes it. So that's another reason why we're looking at trying to replace that. Our tanker's 1999. Again, we replaced the tank in it 4 years ago with a poly tank. And then we have our rescue van. And then our personnel hauler, our pickup truck.
How much did it cost to replace that tanker? The tanker, the part of
The tank,
yeah.
When we replaced it, it was a little over 50,000 and it was out of service for a couple weeks. The last time, that we did have it in the shop a few times.
yeah, they
Trying to
tried
fix
to
it.
weld and do this. It was a steel tank in it originally when they built it.
How long did they say that would last?
Poly tank,
Yeah.
20 to 30 years. I don't see that truck going anywhere. It hauls water, and it's got a little pump on it. It's a very key point for a fire department to have, the more water. When I first got on, the biggest tanker probably around was 1,500 gallons. Now everyone's going to the 3,000, 2,500.
That's what the new pumper tanker has, correct?
Yeah, we would go with 3,000 gallons, so we would bring potentially 7,000 gallons in the first 3 trucks. The pumper tanker would work going to a car fire on the interstate. We pulled up to a car fire where it's actually been a semi. $1,000 or 1,000 gallons worth of water doesn't go very far in a semi, so now we're calling up our tanker and another tanker and setting up drop tanks out on the interstate to try to get this fire out. So, I mean, it wouldn't be just, I mean, it's a multi-purpose truck. It can be used in town, hook up the hydrants, or we can use it where there isn't hydrants, whether that's in city limits yet in some areas or out in the townships.
You're dying, I know you.
I'm not dying. I mean, everybody knows where I stand. I mean,
I know where you stand.
given all the discussion, you just look at the facts, I think it's a responsibility on part of the council to replace capital equipment on a scheduled basis, and this seems like a no-brainer. The city's in at 58% of the cost of it, the townships are in for the rest, interest rates are at an all-time low. It just, everything having been said, it just makes sense to add another piece of equipment to our fleet, given where the city is and given where the city is going to grow.
Can you show me some data to support that? We're not replacing, we're adding a piece of equipment, and right now, the ladder truck is down. Okay, so now you're going to a secondary piece of equipment that's covered by mutual aid, and I know you'll say the 15, 20 minutes, but if you have a fire, that 15, 20 minutes isn't gonna save anything. You're just gonna be able to extinguish that fire.
From mutual aid.
From mutual aid, yes. I
Well,
mean,
you're
mutual
gonna
aid
be-
is a
potentially you could save some stuff.
godsend as far as equipment goes on small departments. And then you say that the departments east of us are bigger, they have this 2 trucks, 3 trucks, or 4 pumpers.
That's what the
Well,
question
they
was
also
asked.
have more than one firehouse. Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of them
St.
do.
Cloud's the only one that has
Well,
one
if
fire
you
station.
include St.
And I
Cloud.
wasn't even including St. Cloud.
Well-
I don't include St. Cloud because that's a whole
Well, St.
different.
Cloud's in mutual aid.
Yeah.
They're part of mutual aid.
Yeah, but I wasn't including St. Cloud because that's a whole different scenario.
And just because somebody else has 2 pumper tankers, whatever that you wanna call them, we don't need them. Well, show me the data that supports you needing a second pumper tanker truck. The risk of fire is very nil. You can do the chicken little, the sky's falling.
Bob, I think if I'd be here wanting to replace my ladder truck, you'd be talking the same way right now.
No, I was all for the ladder truck.
You
until
were
we
all
switched
for the
gears.
pumper tanker. You made the
No, I
motion
was
to
for
move
the
forward with
process,
it.
the process going through.
To move the forward, not to spend over
Right, and
$800,000.
Then it switched to the bidding process, all of a sudden, the bidding process.
The bidding
was-
process was already done. I brought the numbers. I
We didn't go
requested
out for
they.
bid though.
Huh?
We didn't go out for bid.
Let's bring this discussion back into something more,
I'm
Reasonable.
just answering the
Yeah,
questions that
I
the
know,
council's
I
asking.
know. I don't wanna make it a personal vendetta with either one of you, cause you're good friends, you really are. I have a question for Lori, and I think we talked about this before, how do you fit it in with the budget?
So with it would take a little bit of time before we would actually issue an equipment certificate. So say you move forward with the truck tonight, we still have to go through the process of purchasing those equipment certificates. So that, you're talking a month or two down the road before that would be there. We have to adopt the preliminary budget by the end of this month. So this doesn't warrant a special situation where we could increase the levy before the final adoption. So the way that we would tailor the equipment certificates is the first payment would not be payable until 2023. That would allow us the time to be able to get the levy in the budget next year for 2023.
So we'd buy the equipment certificates, use it to purchase the truck, so it's here next year, and put the debt into 2023.
Correct.
Everybody understand that?
Mm-hmm.
So
The
we-
truck would take probably roughly a year to build,
Well,
so I'm just,
unless you can find a used one on Craigslist. Just kidding around.
we did that in 2012
We tried that
too, didn't
before,
we?
and that didn't work out very well, I
Yeah.
know that, okay, I won't even go there. No, but at least then we can have time to look at RFPs or some bidding process and figure out exactly what it's gonna cost before we go through the equipment certificate. And even then, we could still decide, let's just wait a while, let's see what's going on. You know, I'm not opposed to it, I agree with Kevin, we have to roll through equipment, we do it, Public Works, we do it to PD, we get new computers here once in a while. At the same time, it's, you know, we gotta look at budget, we have to see how does it fit, where is it?
Oh, I
The debt
understand that,
levy,
yeah.
especially when we're paying, 58, whatever it is, 52% of whatever it is. So, that being said, hold on here, I'm gonna go backwards. Yeah, I'm looking for a motion, I'm just trying to figure. Yeah, go ahead, I'm just trying to figure out what
I
it would be.
move that council considers accepting the fire truck bid for a second pumper tanker, and we direct staff to obtain quotes for an equipment certificate.
I second it.
Motion is second. I want you to fine tune that because
We
We
already
don't-
have a quote, right?
We have two quotes, yes. Obviously, they probably gonna go up a little bit.
What do you want me to fine tune?
well, I think we should open it to bids versus just relying on this one.
Yeah.
Because their cost is gonna go up. And that, again, it's gonna extend the
You said
timeline.
they might be able to go back and say, hey, if we decide this, do you think, can you not go up a percent? I mean, you're talking 800,000.
That's what he said, he's gonna check.
Right.
Now, and Lori, I'm gonna reach to you, because we dealing with Rosenbauer, they were the cheaper of the two trucks. What was he talking about, the price bidding, or the price, that we didn't have to open it up for bids?
So
Guaranteed
that was,
pricing?
if you went through their, through the HGAC, co-op,
Okay.
so you could do co-op bidding, but a fire truck is also a unique special provision in the state statute for bidding. Oftentimes, you only have one or two companies that even can bid on these specialized pieces of equipment. So you are allowed to do the process that we did take on these trucks, to get the quotes. It is one of those exceptions in the bid law, because fire equipment is so specialized.
Very good. Okay,
I like the bid process.
so
That's- yeah.
open up the bid process for this so that we can get equipment certificate done yet this year, payable in 2023. All right? That sound right? Get the equipment certificate.
So what you could do is accept these quotes, and we know that it's possible that, they told us that the pricing probably would go up 1.5% if we didn't accept it by the end of August. So if you wanted to accept the quote no higher than that 1.5%, you could do that, or you could just say only up to this 800,000 that was originally quoted, and then, direct us to move forward with, looking at the equipment certificate.
What was your motion again?
Let's not kick the can down the road, let's get this done.
Well, and I'm fine, but we'd have to rephrase that. Motion and second is on the table, for, what was that there? Who can repeat that? Where's Kayla?
Considering accepting the fire truck bid for a second pumper tanker and to staff obtain quotes for the equipment certificate. I think you read it verbatim.
Was that what you put, Red?
I read requested council action, that's
Yep.
what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, I know, but it's modified because of we've missed the September 1st deadline, and it's gonna go up by another increase, so if we accept this bid, we're on,
So you said
1.5% or
move to
something,
consider
potentially.
accepting the fire bid, but not over the 1.5% of the second public tanker.
second. So,
Say that
let's,
again, John.
let's,
So move to
hold on,
consider.
ho. I'm gonna lose track in Robert's rules here.
Okay.
The motion is to amend the original motion to go with this bid plus 1.5%,
Not exceeding that. right?
not exceeding that 1.5%. Motion and second, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
So then, there's a motion and second on the floor to exactly what we just finished. The exacting bid plus 1.5, no, not to exceed 1.5%.
To exceed, yep.
And motion and second on the floor. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion prevails. So, I think we're good.
I think we're good. Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
We're gonna see you next year for a 1997 grass rig.
We'll see.
All right. Skimming right along. What did that say, 8:30? Holy moly, god dang. Is
No, 7.
that 7:30?
Yeah, 7-Eleven.
Oh, sorry, I was, sorry.
Oh, shh, don't go
Jeez.
there.
Oh, man. Preliminary budget adoption. Lori,
Well, good evening.
Jeff, you don't have to stick around if you
That
don't.
fun time of year, again. We have been talking about the budget now for the past several months. So before you is the draft budget for your consideration for the preliminary approval. We do have to complete the preliminary levy approval by September 30th per the state law. So in the budget, I'm not gonna read everything that's in my RCA, just a couple highlights. We are proposing to add the full-time police clerk, which we're in the process of hiring, but it was an unbudgeted item for 2021 that we used unspent budget for to fill that position. So it would be a new position in the budget for 2022. Also looking at hiring a full-time mechanic in mid-year next year. And that has been talked about, at least the next Public Works edition has been talked about for a few years now anyways, that they would have that next hire. We did have a planning intern in the budget a couple years ago. We took it out this last year with Nate just coming on board, for this year anyways. So with Nate coming on board, it was a lot to ask, a new staff to now also manage an intern in that process. But we would like to add that back for summer 2022, and it really does help with offsetting some of like fences and decks and accessory buildings and some of those things. And it also helps us work with local colleges to try to help their internship programs too. So those sometimes can be unpaid. We are proposing for a paid position for that, for the intern over the summer months. The union contracts are settled through the end of 2022, so the budget just represents what's in those contracts, and that's a 2% wage increase. Other things are pretty straightforward. One addition that I would like council to make a decision on is the request from the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. They are requesting again to participate in their Environmental Action Fund, where they're looking at some different lawsuits I think that they've had with some environmental issues. The city council has opted not to participate in that extra membership due in the past year, so it is not included in the budget presented tonight. If you would like that included, we need to add that to the budget tonight. So and that's $1,836, so your call on that.
How much?
$1,836.
Okay.
The equipment that's proposed, you can see the list there. It is not an equipment certificate year typically for 2022. So the next equipment certificate that we're looking at helping us with some of the general equipment is 2023. So, and just a couple of the capital improvement plans that Randy will be bringing forward here in the next few meetings. So overall, the market value that we received from the county assessor is proposed, or estimated to be about a 4.8% increase. With our budget changes, we're looking at the tax rate going up a few percent, and a lot of that has to do with the debt levy. Some big projects we've had the last couple of years that are, we're paying full price for on those debt levies now. The effect on a home that's valued at $200,000 would be about an increase of $80 with this budget. So just a reminder that this, once you set the levy, we cannot increase the final levy unless there's a special circumstance that happens. Who knows if that would happen, but I'm not anticipating that. So the only place we can go from here is down before December. So kind of keep that in mind, that if there's some things that you're on the fence about, we have time to deal with those before we set the final levy in December. So the request for tonight, one, take action on that coalition if you want to participate in that environmental action fund. And then the second, the resolution for adopting the preliminary levy and budget. And then also setting the truth and taxation hearing for December 6th, 2021 at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. Questions and comments?
For that first motion, so that's not membership, that's just an extra on top.
Correct.
So we're still members.
Correct.
As a board member of the coalition, I vehemently oppose this every time they bring it up. I call it a kind of a money pit of litigation against MPCA, EPA, and water quality standards. It's never gone down. The litigation's never disappeared. They've come to some rulings that has helped small cities, but in effect, that litigation will never disappear. So, it's a voluntary, right? It's, so I'm with you. I make a motion to deny the request of CDMC for that amount.
I second.
Motion and second, to deny the request for Environmental Action Fund. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything stand out to you guys? Is this too high, too low? We want to start tweaking it now? Want to add things in and then subtract them later? I mean, we can't add later, we can only subtract later.
I think it's too high.
I'm not surprised you said that.
What's that supposed to mean?
No, I'm just not surprised you said that.
Yeah, it's too high. It doesn't go by historically what tax increases are. So, that's my opinion on that.
And we can go down later.
Yeah,
Yeah, start cutting.
yeah, I know, but historically, we've never gone down later. I mean,
Yeah,
I've
we
had
have.
this.
Last few years we have.
We have.
Yeah.
Last year we did.
Well, I disagree. But,
That doesn't surprise
no,
me.
it's like rubber stamping it. Once you approve the preliminary budget, historically,
yeah.
there's nobody on the council that'll come by and, do their fiscal responsibility. The budgets aren't now like I used to. It's basically staff-driven. Nothing against staff. But right now, all the budgets are staff-driven. I mean, simple as that. There's not much input from the council. You just look at the bottom line. You don't look at what's being spent or where it's being spent.
Well, we can certainly have a work session at the end of this month, and you can line item detail every one of them if you want.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do.
We used to do it 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I know. It was painful.
Yeah, it's a pain, but that goes with the job,
I have a question.
you know?
I'm not gonna complain, but on the capital equipment plan, it says capital compensation study update.
Yeah, we added that in, what's that?
We just completed a compensation study.
We did. There is concern in regards to retention of employees, especially the police department. So I have an estimate. I'm going to be bringing it to the personnel committee, but we wanted to put it as a placeholder in the preliminary budget. So they just came out with an estimate on that. It was just the timing of things.
Well, and
So
I
we
get
put
it.
it in there.
The last one took us like 3 years. It wasn't like we got it done in 2 months.
Yeah, and normally it doesn't take that long.
well, I know we had some hiccups there, quite a few hiccups.
How long
and-
does it take
And we had three admin.
6 months?
sorry,
Yeah.
administrators.
6 months?
Okay.
And you're gonna go through Flaherty and Hood, I assume, again, or not?
Yeah, they actually have
Brandon?
submitted recently an estimate
Okay.
to us, which I want to first share with the Personnel Committee. But again, we wanted to put it in here as a placeholder.
So Bob, this can come down. We've got a couple months to work on, line items, we
Fine,
can bring it down.
that's fine, I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that
we
just by
come
my
down.
experience, it will come down.
Well, you gotta get involved.
I do. The rest of the council has to get involved too.
You guys wanna step out? So- So I also see the Birch Street redevelopment study, and I thought we said, no to that, based on trying to get cameras and vandalism and stuff.
Yeah, so, good question. So, I think we're gonna look more, cause I think, weren't we waiting on some final prices for some of the camera aspects? And then, the intent was to try and bring that back for more discussion, to just make sure that that was the consent of the council. And just also provide that overview of, the study area and what could potentially occur, what the grant could or could not accomplish based on the council's vision. So,
And we did discuss it. I'm just saying, I'm going to the
Mhm.
APO on Thursday, I'm gonna either say yay or nay, we're going forward with the study or not. And the last direction I had is we weren't at that work session.
Yeah, I
That's,
thought
that's
were
what we
gonna go
said,
for
we're not gonna go
cameras
forward
instead,
with it.
right?
Because there's a lot more going on in that intersection, and we wanna look at the whole thing.
I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I was gonna go back to the APO, that's why I see it here, I'm gonna go, I was gonna tell the APO that pass, we'll look at it again next year when the study money comes around again.
Mhm.
I mean, there's no hurry to get it done,
Cameras,
is there?
right?
What?
We
No.
were talking about cameras, right? Yeah, we
Well,
wanted to do the cameras.
I absolutely
Okay.
wanna get cameras in there, and if this is the 5,000 we can send to cameras and vandalism ahead of study, we can do the study next year, nothing's gonna change on Burke Street in a year. I mean, it really, I don't think it will. Again, I'm not trying to speak for the rest of council, if you guys want it, like, great, but I just think we talked about that.
No,
Okay.
I think we did too. I thought we decided to move forward more with the cameras of the now than this for this year.
So that's,
Okay.
again, I'm gonna say that's out.
okay, yeah, that's the
Well,
consensus,
we
yeah.
decided that last month, I thought, right?
This
Again,
last
I'm not-
meeting,
The work session.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ryan, do we have a number of miles on trail maintenance? Or is there, besides Kleinfelter?
No, Kleinfelter would be the biggest target,
Okay.
that we would have to be concerned about in the future.
Is there money in this? It says shop remodel, what kind of money is that?
That's the money that was tied to the purchase of that building next to
Yep.
the Public Works facility for overhead doors and.
But do we have a dollar figure somewhere?
We do have some money that we've set aside over the
Okay.
last couple budgets for that.
And okay, when is, what is the plan behind, moving in, or,
So we have moved equipment in there. I haven't done anything to the building yet.
okay,
As far as cosmetics. We've just been jockey equipment around in there for the summer, trying to
Okay.
figure out what works best. We've got a plan. I've gone out, I'm getting one bid right now, from a local contractor. I have reached out to 2 other contractors, that said they were gonna call me back and give me bids, but I haven't heard back from yet, so. I think I'm gonna move on from them and try to get some other quotes, so.
and again, I'd just like to see kind of this all or none thing, if you're trying to do it all at once, or little pieces, so we can get more
I am
equipment
looking
there.
at cutting in one overhead door, widening another overhead door, and then replacing an existing overhead door. So I'm not,
Okay.
it's not a huge project,
No,
so.
I get it. Just, can you bring it back to us when you get
Yes.
something more finalized?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I see we have holiday lights on there too. Not that we don't need holiday lights, but,
We do budget some of those replacements, actually.
it says Public Works, so I'm looking at you, Ryan. Not, You know,
Are we
one of the-
throwing people under the bus again?
Actually, Randy has.
No, really,
Over there.
I'm lying present, so one of the oddball requests, like every year we get is a request from the city for Christmas tree lights and lights. And-
These are the holiday lights that go over the streets, and they have, you know, a life cycle as well. And we budget that actually through the streetlight utility fund, so.
Okay. I have no other questions, councilors, anything? Then I'll look for a motion on the adopting preliminary.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution of 2021-050, adopting the preliminary 2020 general fund budget and proposal of the tax levy. Do I keep reading?
No, that's good.
It's really the 2022 general fund budget. and
20,
the-
oh, so sorry, I'm reading the wrong one.
And the collectible 2022 levy.
Oh. Who did that boo-boo? Who did that boo-boo? 2021.
I'll take ownership.
22.
Sorry.
Motion and second, adopting resolution 2021-50. Any further concerns or questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion prevails. 10. A.
So you'll also need to set the truth and taxation hearing for
Oh,
December
sorry.
6, 2021, at 6 PM.
Is that a separate motion, right?
Is it? It wasn't.
It can be, I
Is
mean,
it
it needs
all
to
It
be
just
now.
has to be verbalized at this meeting.
Oh, say, okay, so motion to set the truth and taxation hearing
Oh.
for December 6, 2021
that.
at 6 PM. Motion and second for truth and taxation hearing. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, 10A.
Yes, so you had approved HMA as the architect for design services for the community center project. And following that, you have to approve a formal contract with them. So that is in your packet for consideration to approve that contract with HMA as presented. Sue did review that and has no concerns with the contract that's enclosed in your packet.
So moved.
Second.
Approve, motion and second to approve contract with HMA as presented. Other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. 10B.
Yeah, so the last several months, within your work sessions, we have discussed potentially partnering with the YMCA for operations of the community center. And you have reviewed the draft MOU that is again in your packet this evening. And we've taken that input from the previous meetings. Sue has also reviewed that MOU, so for your consideration this evening is to approve that MOU between the city and the YMCA.
Move to approve the MOU between the YMCA and the city.
Motion and second approving the MOU between the city and YMCA. The one question that I brought to Teresa's attention was the naming rights. The YMCA and the city of St. Joe be the primary names on the building. And I know that the YMCA has some building requirements or building naming requirements. The city of St. Joe will not be necessarily the primary name. And so I'm not sure how that should be reworded. It may be the community center, it may be the activity center, it may be something else, but, and there is some bonding wording that we also may have to follow. So again, I don't know how to rephrase that.
Say
What-
that again, that they're saying they won't? It just says right here, will be the primary names.
Well, the city of St. Joe won't be the primary name. YMCA definitely will be on there. The city of St. Joe will not be necessarily a primary name based on the bonding language, based on kind of how we presented it as an activity center, Wetterling Activity Center, Youth Center. What I'm saying is, it's not gonna say City of St. Joseph on it.
It will at some point, and somewhere. It might not be, the fonts might be different.
It may not be the primary name on the building. And so I've asked Therese to figure out the right wording to make sure it's matching our bonding wording and whatever else, really generic, whatever that generic is. I just don't know what that is.
Well, that would be legal.
It may
Yeah,
be.
and within
It may
the,
be.
Sue, I don't know if you have the MOU in front of you right now, but it does keep it open within the MOU that there'll be other naming opportunities. So it's not gonna And
I just-
the mayor's correct, I mean, it could be with the bonding, we might need to
Yeah, I
add
mean,
additional naming, or, but I'll let Sue chime in regards to what it says within this document.
Sorry, I don't have it in front of me, but I think we can certainly tweak that to
Okay.
take care of that issue.
I just wanna make sure that we're, you know, everybody understands. There
And
may
I
be
don't think the
some,
YMCA will have a problem with that,
No.
you know, they want their name on it, and,
well, they were very clear about that.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I'll take a look at that
Yeah.
tomorrow, get you some language.
So a couple things on the MOU. Does this MOU bind us to anything? It's just an understanding. It's not anything that is binding the city to do anything, right?
Correct, it
Correct.
allows us to operate, and I'll let Sue chime in on the legality of it, but it's for us to
It's
move
not a
forward with.
legal document.
Correct,
So who drafted this? Was this drafted by us or by them?
YMCA.
YMCA.
Okay, so it's hard to follow because it's not numbered, it's not lettered. So I want to direct our attention to the third paragraph, capital dollars on page 1. What is FFE?
That's, fixtures, furniture and equipment.
Okay. And then, in that first sentence, it talks about, and this is where I want council input, or at least, an understanding. Sales tax towards construction of the building and private fundraising for other necessary improvements. Private fundraising by whom? By us? By the Y? Together? I mean, what are we expecting within this document?
Right, likely both.
Okay.
We-
All right. Thank you. Doesn't say that, but okay. That's all I had.
okay. Motion and second approving the MOU. Any other questions or concerns? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does indeed carry. 10C, right? Construction manager.
Yes, so, working with, Murray with HMA Architects, he had suggested that the city, move forward with a construction manager at risk sooner rather than later. It allows for, that, individual or firm to, part of the design and cost estimating, they have a good handle on that. So that is why this is before you this evening, is to move forward with, he had drafted an RFP, which I also had Sue take a look at. She has no concerns about, the document that is, before you this evening. So for your consideration, is approval of that RFP and to release that.
so moved.
Second?
Motion and second, motion, to move forward the RFP process for construction manager. My only question is there a timeline behind this somewhere?
There is. Yeah, so it's gonna be, it would be posted, for just under 4 weeks. As far as, for, us to accept when it would be due, the proposals.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry.
And then the council would create that short list.
Very good. Motion and second, RFP for construction manager. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We are carried. Thank you all. Item 11, parklet.
Yes, so as you recall, a pilot program was ran this past spring and summer for a parklet. That was a partnership between CSB, SJU, Stearns County Public Health, and the city, and that was removed on September 3rd, per the direction of the council. So in order to help evaluate the pilot program, we reached out to businesses and included that as an attachment in your packets this evening, and that was also presented back in June. So we got both positive and negative. Not gonna go through these responses, I might quiz you later on them, but. So we have, we got over 230 responses. We launched the survey, had the survey run for about 3 weeks. So we got good response rates, and it's kind of echoing, you know, business. It was 50-50 kind of on most of that. You either liked it or you hated it. So those responses are included. So part of what we're looking at this evening are a couple things. One, are we gonna declare the parklet as surplus property and then dispose of it? And then second, consider additional input from Planning Commission and Economic Development Board and a few others, just to fully evaluate the parklet itself. We wanna make sure that folks understand that a parklet is not necessarily just a structure, but it's also a concept. You can have 2 parking spaces, table, chairs, border around it, and that can be a parklet. So Brian did inspect the parklet and, does recommend discontinuing the specific parklet that we did just because of safety reasons. So, again, with that, we're looking for a couple of directions. One, are we going to declare the parklet as surplus property and dispose of it? And then 2, would the council let staff further evaluate the parklet concept with getting input from Planning Commission, Economic Development Board, and then coming back and really presenting the full evaluation on the parklet? Do we discontinue it? Do we run another pilot one next year? Maybe partner with the CVB? There's a lot of different options that could be at play. Allow them through a permit. So just looking for feedback on those 2 aspects.
My motion is to declare parklet surplus property and dispose of it.
Dispose of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And make sure to include the people that donated it. I don't know how
And
we
they
get
did, I mean,
those.
Yeah.
Maybe they
Great
wanted-
idea. I mean, they tried to beautify.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
Second.
Motion and second, declare parklet surplus property disposed of. Try and, I don't know would it be Matt Lindstrom?
Yeah, so we can connect with Matt and
See what
that
he
team.
wants back, and
Yep.
everything else is ours, I guess.
Sounds
Motion and
good.
second, surplus property. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed?
On the second question,
Yeah.
I don't think we should pursue this any further unless somebody else comes forward on their own merit. I don't think that the city should be all of a sudden, the last one was a complete failure to me. And I don't know why we should waste any time of anybody's to go any further into this.
Yeah, I think we brought it up because of the COVID. I think that was
Right, yeah,
wasn't that why it was born?
I don't think so. I think this
No?
was born out of Matt Lindstrom's urban planning group.
Really?
Yeah. The
Okay.
picnic tables
It
and the
just happened
patio
to
stuff
come
was
during
born out of COVID. The parklet was born out of SJU CSB urban planning department.
But anyway, I'd like to make a motion that the city just drop it, period. We don't need to pursue it or to incite it or to incubate it or whatever. If a business wants to come forward, they can come forward on their own. We don't need to, encroach upon sending out, waste of time, waste of money, of trying to proceed with a failed endeavor.
Yeah, I'm with Bob on that. I don't know if we need a motion per se, but I
Well,
would
I think
say.
that's what he's looking for.
Yeah, so,
Direction.
yeah, we're
Do
just
you
looking
want
for
a motion?
direction,
Oh,
correct.
Then I
Yeah.
second the motion.
That's what I was waiting.
Motion and second to discontinue any parklet discussion from the city's perspective. I do want to say that this was a pilot. That we don't need another pilot on top of a pilot. We had no way to measure the objectivity of it. Even if we brought that to Matt's attention, how do you measure it, whether it's successful or not, outside of subjective matters?
Mhm.
So, to me, I think it was poorly communicated, poorly designed, poorly constructed, and I'm not sure the city needs to really get involved, and I echo Bob's sentiment.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I agree. Before even coming out in August, I had no idea what the heck that was. I thought it was, as a community member out there before in the council, I thought it was part of seating for the coffee shop. I had no idea what it was. Me and my wife were like, oh, that's new, must be because of COVID. That's what we thought it was.
That's what I thought so too.
Yeah.
So didn't really know anything about it, obviously, until I joined and what it was.
Motion,
It's like, oh,
sorry,
Yeah.
John.
you're good.
Motion and second to discontinue any further work on parklet. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails. Wellhead protection, right?
Yep.
Or did I skip one?
Nope,
No?
12.
Okay, 12. Is this Public Works or you, Randy? Tag team, all right. Is that good or bad?
Hopefully good. Yeah, so I'll give the 10,000-foot overview and then
Randy
chime
will
in.
fill us in.
So yeah, as you all probably looked at my RCA, so it's a plan that's required every 10 years. You know, it's identifying potential contaminants, protecting your water resources, right? Managing best management practices, contingency plans, setting up new wells and public education. So this is a 10-year plan. We are currently in year 8. And it takes 2 years to write/amend your plan. So we'll be entering with the Minnesota Department of Health next month in October for our scoping 1 meeting. I'm also meeting with the Water Alliance people, actually on Thursday, to kind of get a better grasp of that scoping 1 meeting. So from that, I'll turn it over to Randy.
Well, he covered it well.
No pun intended.
Yes, no pun intended. It is a fairly significant effort, and so the city, as Ryan indicated, we last completed this in 2013. It was a couple-year effort. The Department of Health breaks this up into what we call a Part 1 and a Part 2. The Part 1 is pretty model intensive, so we work with Department of Health hydrogeologists, and a lot of it is about a computer groundwater model. And if I could have displayed for you, I don't know if the council fully appreciates, and you can't see it from here, but how large your drinking water management supply area actually is. So if you hear the acronym DWISMA, DW, drinking water.
Oh, yeah.
That describes the boundary for which water, surface water or groundwater is believed to influence the city's, the community's wells. And you'll have to take my word for this, but it goes all the way into Collegeville Township by Big Fish Lake and along the County Road 2 corridor, almost just north of Cold Spring. So it's a rather large boundary area. The city's water supply is generally considered in terms of a scale of not vulnerable to very vulnerable. And nature of the soils in this area, we have what's considered a vulnerable or very vulnerable water supply. So surface activities particularly can impact our water supply, our water quality. So the modeling aspect and understanding where our water comes from and how to protect it is pretty important. We're on this 10-year cycle. If we had brought on additional well supply sooner than 10 years, we'd actually be starting this effort even sooner. So the state requires that we update the wellhead protection plan anytime you even bring on new source water. So that's why you haven't seen it sooner than 10 years. But as Ryan was describing, we break it up in 2 parts. So part 1 is the first effort, the model set up, working with the hydrogeologists. The second part is really about an inventory of potential contamination sources and how to, what do you do in the event that you find a buried fuel tank. So all of the things that could pollute our water are addressed in part 2. But you have to get through part 1 before you tackle part 2, and so that's why we have it broken up in our letter proposal. And we think that these can be staged over 2 to 2.5 years in terms of the cost as well. So I think Ryan addressed that in his cover letter. So happy to entertain other questions. I know it's described as an amendment, and we hope to repurpose certain aspects of the current plan, but we are anticipating from the Department of Health's perspective that it'll be largely a rewrite. New hydrologists, new staff, different ways of doing things, new modeling requirements. So it's probably less of an amendment and more of a new, fresh document, if you would.
Councilors, questions?
So you want a motion to approve that, or what?
I believe that's.
Approve the WHPP agreement.
So moved.
Second, motion and second to approve the WHPP agreement with SEH. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are carried.
Since we got Ryan on the hook here, I want to ask him a question.
Yes, sir.
What's going on at the softball field? Are you stripping the whole area, or what?
Hey, can we wait till we're done with the entire agenda and then we'll bug Public Works? Yeah, well, we don't have staff reports, but let's go to item 13, which is St. Joseph Catholic School speed study. And then Brian can respond to other questions.
Well, I'll start on this one. This one's a follow-up to a staff meeting that staff and I met with the new principal of the school in terms of some of the concerns she was hearing and observing with respect to traffic on Minnesota Street. There has been a dialogue, I think, with previous staff in prior years and various steps that the city has taken to try to improve safety or manage safety at drop-off and pickup times, particularly Minnesota Street. So I know some of those have included some parking restrictions along the south side of Minnesota Street for drop-off. There was a placard, warning placard that had been installed off and on at the center line of the road, raising awareness about pedestrian activity. But when staff met, actually a couple weeks ago, August 23rd, heard some new concerns about particularly safety of parents dropping off their children inside the parking lot at first and then trying to exit out onto Minnesota Street, particularly in the afternoon. So concerns raised about the safety of vehicles entering Minnesota. Pedestrians still crossing at First Avenue and walking to the school. And we talked a little bit about the logistics in terms of drop-off times, pickup times, what the school day looks like, how many students. But as the council recalled, there was interest in completing a traffic study and understanding is there a speed issue? Is there issues with vehicles not yielding, for example, to pedestrians? But at the time, that was in the summer, we wanted to wait till school conditions started, and so school's about to start, so we're bringing back the scope of such a study. We did include two devices as well as in terms of the camera detection. So we'll install traffic cameras to actually observe. We don't have to send a person out there to sit there for 3 days and watch. We can record it on video and fast forward it, so that accelerates the counting effort. We also include radar. So I think one of the concerns or questions is, do we truly have a speeding concern on Minnesota Street? Do vehicles, say, coming from College Avenue truly accelerate to 30 miles an hour by the time they get to First Avenue Northwest or vice versa? So adding radar equipment to this will help us understand, at least during the period of study, are we detecting vehicles accelerating or reaching high speeds? The outcome of this then would be to quantify what we're seeing in terms of pedestrians, vehicular traffic, the speeds, and then allow us to make some recommendations relative to would a school speed zone be appropriate? Other traffic calming changes that could be made, for example, at Minnesota Street. So I guess I'll look to my right here on Dwight and Therese if there were any other concerns that you saw from our meeting.
No, I think you pretty much hit them all. That was our concern, is that with it being a posted 30-mile-an-hour zone, my concern that I brought up to the principal is when you have an all-way stop at College in Minnesota and an all-way stop at Second Avenue, I find it hard to believe without verifying with radar that there's vehicles traveling above the posted speed limit of 30. So then it comes into play if you want to reduce speed by lowering the speed limit, but that's going to require an additional sign. So,
but this exercise would give you the justification if you were to implement a school speed zone, for example, and reduce it. You would have duly studied the traffic conditions.
Yeah, we studied that back when they built the Berry Center.
Well,
You
at
know,
that,
we had an argument or debate back in those days on the entrance.
yes.
And I think as a council, we conceded.
Well, that question came up.
And the actual, I mean, the resolution would be an ingress, egress into that parking lot. But through the politics and the, you know, small town mentality, we conceded on that entrance point.
Right.
You know, and now, fast forward, we have what we were fearing back then.
Well, I think there was also a request for a second entrance, actually, between First and College. And that was as part of the expansion of the facility between the church and the school. And we did discourage that from a traffic operation perspective, that we thought a second entrance off of Minnesota Street would create more operational problems for the city. And so staff recommended against having a second point of access.
So did the church ever, or the school ever talk about utilizing the parking lot in the sense of, instead of that tight?
Well, I think
Was that ever a
those were
conversation?
all discussions about everything from, is a traffic guard used, you know, what are parents' behaviors in terms of dropping their children off? And I think a lot like what we see or saw at Kennedy, for example, Kennedy Elementary School, is that parents had been conditioned really to make sure that they're dropping their child, or many of them were dropping their child off right at the door and creating some congestion issues that actually translated into improvements at the school at the time. So understanding that menu of schedule of operations, when are drop-offs, because you can have a very tight period of 20 minutes where you have these peak drop-offs and pickups, and staggering pickup time sometimes is an option, sometimes it's not. But we try to understand all of those, bus arrival, when are parents coming, when is school in session, how many students do you have? So all of those were discussed.
Yes, Mr. Klusner.
So I got an earful today from a Catholic school parent about the fact that the city has talked about this ad infinitum and nothing's been done. It's just the same as it was years ago. And then I was coming back from a bicycle ride today, about 9 o'clock, right downtown there by the Legion at that intersection with Minnesota, and I saw someone, probably someone about my age, pull a U-turn right there on Minnesota, right, you know, right in front of the entrance to the school.
Was it me?
Wasn't you, Bob.
I was working, so it wasn't me.
And so I just think, you know, study schmuddy. I mean, when are we gonna just do something about what I perceive as a dangerous traffic pattern or issue or behavior on Minnesota Street, you know, from College down to the entrance to the, or by the Legion, or the entrance to the monastery. It just seems like an unsafe place in the morning during certain times by, you know, certain drivers. So it's just, this sounds like kicking the can down the road and being new to the council. I don't know how often this has come up about slow it down, whatever, you know, parking zone stuff, school zone stuff. I don't understand all that, but it seems like nothing's changed in several years.
I'm curious what you think the solution is.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
How about speed bumps?
That's not my job to come up with the solution.
Yeah, that's.
It's our police department, it's our engineer, it's, you know, make some recommendations, but I think what we have now is unsafe.
I think speed bumps will slow
So-
people down.
I think St. Cloud had this question quite a while ago when they put the mall in downtown St. Germain. You guys probably, that's beyond your birthday.
Probably me. I don't know.
So
But,
this is,
I mean, we can go
I'm
that
gonna go
route.
back, I'm gonna go back to the document. This is just collection on our part. It doesn't involve necessarily asking the Catholic school to change what they do. Get parents out on the street.
Correct.
When we had Kennedy, we had a very active principal that actually forced their parents to come out. They were very rigid about where they could be drop-off and directing traffic and getting kids and gathering kids and doing all the stuff and making sure traffic was flowing and kids weren't getting hurt. And I suspect that there's probably some things the school can do as well. While this may look at the road, it doesn't necessarily help with parents dropping off and picking up.
Right, that's the problem.
We can't control that. That's something on their end. So we can do all the statistics we want. It may not change the behavior that would affect Minnesota in college or Minnesotans at first. Just, I mean, keep that in mind. They do have a drop-off on the main drag where they can pull their car up and you can't park there and kid gets off. And well, actually, I want to go to another place. Is there any traffic problems on College where they, do kids drop, parents drop them off on College? Is it just buses or is it?
I thought it was just buses.
Not that, I guess that was explained to
Okay.
us, on, at least along College.
And that's because the entrance is there and they got all the kids, or the cars going in and out. If you actually drop on College and walk across, there's probably no issue.
Yeah.
Depends where they're crossing. I know we have some other traffic and pedestrian concerns on College Avenue with some of the crossings between Minnesota and the college, for
We're
example.
talking right by the church there.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
dropping right by the church on the west side, kids drop off and they can walk right across, there's no issue there. I mean, there may be a backup, but it's not this coming and going inside that one drive entrance.
Maybe that's where the
Okay.
drop-off should be for everybody.
So is this you need an approval or something to move forward with the contract, or is this just
Yeah, well,
informational?
yes, but if the council wants to move forward
Yeah.
with a traffic study, this would be our next step.
Yeah, and so moved. Move forward. Motion and second, move forward with SEH and providing study on that area. And have we outlined it like, it's like College to Second or something, or?
Well, the cameras we're looking at setting up in the vicinity of the First Avenue intersection, so we're gonna get a
Okay.
view on both sides of First Avenue, but
Okay,
that's the limit of our focus area.
very good, thank you. Motion and second, move forward with traffic study and et cetera. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye, opposed. Motion carries, thank you.
I have one other item at the risk of fanning a flame on a previous agenda item.
The parklet?
Going back to the Ellie discussion in
Oh.
terms of understand the council's action to table
Yeah.
the vacation. However, if you recall, the construction drawings do include closing the Ellie.
I know.
So, and by closing, what we mean is the driveway approach at Minnesota Street would be removed. The gravel on the north side of the sidewalk would be moved, and there would be a turf buffer of some distance north of the sidewalk. So I did want to make sure that the council understood at least the current construction documents would require closing the alley, even though you may not be vacating the right-of-way. And if the council feels differently, then I'm obliged to ask the question of whether or not we should be changing the current plans.
Change.
Yeah, we have to.
So
Literally.
my understanding then would be that we will leave the
Leave the curb
conditions
cut.
as they are.
Yep.
The concrete apron will remain, the gravel driveway will remain,
Yep.
and it's
Status quo.
status quo.
Thank you,
Okay,
Randy.
thank you.
Very good. Mayor reports, I have none. Bob, you want to bother Ryan now?
Yeah, what's going on at the softball park, Brian?
I knew I was gonna bring that back, man.
Dead grass,
What's that?
dead grass,
Dead grass.
it's all dead.
It looked like they were, redoing the whole field
Well,
from the
it's-
distance.
It's not coming back, right?
It's
Because
not.
of
No,
the
it's not
heat
gonna-
and the lack of,
Yeah, it's not, that one's not gonna come back.
okay.
Neither
Okay, I just was curious from the highway there, I saw, oh, what's going on there?
Along those same lines, I've had to request our water restriction. Can we, where are we at with water supply?
So we, as of September 2nd, which is the last update I've received from the Department of Natural Resources, we are still, in a severe drought.
Okay.
So we've been lifted from the extreme, but we're currently still in a severe drought.
No, that's fine. I just,
Yeah.
so the water restrictions will remain in effect. Very good, thank you. Item 15.
Wait a minute. Aren't you not having, or did you already
I
share
w-
that with us that you're not having a mayor's?
I just said no report tonight. And then I went to Ryan.
I'll move to adjourn.
No, you can't, because we're going to 15, Bob. We're going to our mediation thing.
Well.
Close meeting. Pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D05 subdivision 3B, the city council my motion is the city council meet in closed session to discuss a settlement proposal between the city of St. Joseph and Tom Opatz LLC. Need a second.
Second.
Motion and second to move into closed session. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We're going to go into closed session in the room over there. Yeah, we have to come back here to close. Yeah. Okay, Bob had his way.
Kids don't have any nowadays.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke, but he's the only one that caught it.
Yeah, after you said that, he was just like, what?
Air, on air. Man, this is my bedtime.
Is that the rule? That's the rule. You probably know where that's written somewhere, Bob. Chapter 3, paragraph, 1, section basement.
St. Joe ordinances. No, I've been 7. Hey, let me know when you're done getting dinner. We're not even halfway through.
Our closed session is ended. I'll entertain a motion, please.
4:15. There's a motion to adjourn.
No, it's.
We have to make a motion.
Motion to accept the-
approve, yeah, a motion to accept.
To-
I'll move to accept.
Motion and second to approve the settlement agreement. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Very good. The motion approved, or motion prevails. Item 16.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
4 o'clock is when it starts.